Across the world, Japan is famous for its downsized architecture. So, what happens when Japanese design meets the tiny house movement? Today, I've traveled to Kumano, Japan to find out. Hi, Rumi.
Hi, Bryce. Welcome to our home.
Thank you. Hi, Katrina. How are you?
Good. It's nice to meet you.
I have to say, this is quite possibly one of the tiniest tiny houses that I have visited so far. And it makes sense being here in Japan, doesn't it?
Yes.
So what's this actually made from? What's the material on the outside? Because this wood looks beautiful.
Since I did not make this one, don't quote me on this one, but I believe it's a locally grown cedar.
Oh, gorgeous.
Yeah. Aged by the craftsman who built this.
And the roofing material actually looks really unusual as well. It's not so often that I can actually just reach up and touch the roof of the home. But yeah, this looks really unusual. What is this?
Tagami, who built this one, I remember him using, this is a seat made for truck, you know, like a cargo truck to cover materials and things.
So it's very
So
waterproof.
yeah, durable.
Yeah.
That actually makes perfect sense, but I've never seen that done before. That's such a clever idea. I love how the roof is sort of set apart in two sections as well. Does that actually fold down when it travels?
Yes, it does. Yeah.
Oh, how clever.
But we just made it tall enough for you so you can just, you know, get in and stand up. Just for you.
Thank you very much. And this is unusual. Is this actually a chimney?
It is. He custom built a fireplace into this so we can climb up top and open that up and we can have a nice fire inside when we get in.
And I see that this is actually on a single axle as well, which is quite surprising because you don't often see single axle tiny houses. How much does this one actually weigh?
Well, when you come around here, you see the sign. In Japanese, of course, it's maximum weight. Is 500 kilograms. But so with additional maybe some items in the tiny house, probably roughly around 600 kilograms.
So very, very lightweight. And that container there, is that where the grey water's going?
This one is attached to the kitchen sink right there, so the drain goes straight into this.
So there's a fresh water supply on board this as well, is there?
Underneath this bench here, 20-liter water tank, and you open this one up, and then you just put water through this. Notice these wide windows.
Oh yeah, the
and
windows are lovely.
This shelf are strategically placed to really extend the bringing outside. And if when you're inside, you will really feel it. You feel like everything is an extension.
It's really actually wonderful how the builder has done that. You can see all of these shapes and lines on the outside that have been continued and then mirrored on the inside, and it forms this wonderful kind of dynamic, doesn't it?
It's beautiful, isn't it?
And is there actually more storage built into this part?
Yes, there actually is. You can actually pull this one out, create a table. Like
how
say if
great.
you want to eat out and serve something, you can have a place to either eat or put some pots and stuff. These are all handmade. So to close this one, you open it up and then slide this one all the way in so this becomes like a lock.
Do you know what the actual dimensions of this home are?
I don't remember. So what I do know is that it fits perfectly within a parking space.
Great.
So it is the size of a car.
Obviously this home is also really portable, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because you don't live in one place. You actually live your lives on the road, traveling in this home and teaching, don't you?
So we do travel for work and living
Yes.
in our tiny house. So as you can see, we pull it by a smaller engine car. So the question we get asked all of the time is, you can actually pull this big of a trailer with that small of an engine car, and it does beautifully.
I've noticed this trend with tiny homes in New Zealand and in America as well, where builders are consistently trying to make the homes bigger and bigger, and they get very heavy and very difficult to move. And so it would be very rare to see a Kiwi or an American tiny house even be able to access an area like this. And that's really one of the incredible benefits to building such a small home, is that it is so portable, eh?
Yeah, I think the builder, Mr. Tagami, he was trying to build a home that was portable, that could really move with you, like the quintessential tiny home on wheels. And we are just lucky enough to have the opportunity to live in one.
Well, I am very anxious to have a look inside. Can
Well,
we take a peek?
Come in, come in.
Please.
All right.
Yes. Japanese house, we take our shoes off.
Right.
Even in tiny house.
This is magic. And amazingly,
Yes.
I can stand up in here. I did not expect that.
How tall are you?
I'm 6'4".
6'4".
Yeah, so being able to stand up in a home like this is a big
right.
deal.
Yeah.
That's right.
The number of pop-top caravans and stuff that I have my head touching, you wouldn't believe. But this is incredible. And from up here, I get 360-degree views.
That's
Yes.
right.
Pretty amazing.
Very nice.
The amount of wood and natural materials in here is wonderful.
Well, Mr. Tagami called this an organic architect. Just to really breathe with you. So when you're in this space, just naturally just cannot help it to feel good.
He really worked hard to use all natural materials in his building. So there aren't very many, if at all any, synthetic materials used in his build.
The design in here is so simple and so elegant as well. Looking at this, you can see that there is kind of storage and little nooks built in all over the place. But everything's hidden away.
Yeah, this place, I'm learning as I live in this space, as after you finish using anything, you just, you have to make a habit of putting things away before you move on to doing something, something different. Otherwise, as you can see, this place could be very noisy and messy. But everything has its own place.
And I can immediately see what you mean about that shelf in the window. It's such a unique connection to the outside. And I've never seen a design feature like that in a home before.
The beautiful
Yeah.
part about that shelf is that it does connect us to the outside without really realizing the significance of that shelf. It is a passway. So when you're inside, you feel that you are truly connected to the outside. And when you're outside looking in, you also feel like, you're connected to living in this home.
So down the far end, you've got all of the kitchen and all of the
Yes.
cooking area.
Yes.
What a lovely, lovely way of utilizing that space. You can see there's so much craftsmanship that's gone into everything.
That's right.
There's 2 gas stoves. And right now the shelf is empty because we just arrived here, so we didn't really have an opportunity to put stuff. But sometimes we put, in here you can see cups and coffee cups and some bowls that we use.
So what about refrigeration in here? Do you have a fridge?
Yes, as a matter of
do.
fact, it's hiding
Right.
right here. Open it up and pull these things. And these are also Mr. Takami's idea to have. Originally, he only had this, and he walked in, and he did not like the way it looked because everything is so beautiful wood, and then have a machine sitting here.
Yeah.
So he did not like the look of it. So he created this shadow.
And so you have the table here as well.
Well, this is our regular setup. It's on hooked into this window here. You can probably see it's very easily removable like this.
You are lifting this table like
Yes.
it's very light, but that looks like a really heavy bit of wood to me.
Well, I'm very strong. Well, not really. Actually, if you look at the back side of this, and you notice something very ingenious. These are carved out wood and
Right.
stuffed with cotton.
They did a very good job of lightening the home in the most unique ways. And this was one of them.
This table also will become a part of the floor space when we sit this one up as our bed.
Right.
So it goes right in between this bench right here.
How fantastic. So, work table during the day like this, and also functional for eating.
Right.
Yes.
Dining table for when you have guests. What
Right.
about extra seating?
Great question.
Yes.
There's extra seating actually underneath. This becomes another seat.
Fantastic. Look at that. So as well, when this is set up as a dining table, you can have one person there,
Here.
a couple of people here, and a person on... You could easily then actually seat 6 people around this table.
Yes.
That's right.
Great.
It's a dinner party space.
I'll say.
Yes, well
What-
used.
And again, everything just tucks away when it's not in use. Everything
right.
has a place in here, doesn't it?
That's
Yes.
right. It's one of the most efficient spaces I've ever been in.
So this room here, you have benches along both sides, storage along both sides. The table serves as an office area, dining area, proper expanded dining table for guests, extra seating, and then this whole thing lays out as a floor for sleeping. Is that right?
That's correct.
Now, that is actually a really traditional kind of style for a Japanese home, isn't it?
I guess as Japanese, I'm so used to, I love that idea of being able to really utilize the space and multi-purpose without stressing anything, you know, just still could really live seamlessly.
Yeah. And so, is this the fireplace behind here?
Yes, it is.
Right, can I
Would
have
you
a
like
look at
that?
that?
Would you like to take a look?
I would have never expected to see a fire inside a space this size. This is kind of modelled off an open place fire that you would sort of see in a much larger home. It's just a very
Yeah.
downsized version of that, isn't
Right,
it?
and it does actually create beautiful fire.
So Mr. Tagami also made a pad to go in front of the fireplace.
Right.
Obviously, this is a wood home, so we need to, take care with the sparks flying out of our fireplace. But he made this out of real leather. And this is really in Mr. Tagami's style, which is to put only what's most beautiful, only what fits, and then to try and use the most natural materials. My vision of tiny house living at the beginning was, if everything is such in a small space, how are we supposed to move around? How are we supposed to, is it going to be difficult to live in, is what I thought. And the way that this tiny house is built is, not only is it enjoyable and it feels like there's so much space, but everything is tucked away, like you said, in a way that it feels expansive and really easy to live in. So I spend much less time cleaning and much more time enjoying the living aspect.
So, again, two girls living in a tiny house. What about clothes?
We have a closet.
You've got a closet in
We
there.
have a closet.
Where do all of the clothes hide?
So our closet is over here. And we currently use these types of packs to sort of have our toiletries and such in. And then we have our clothes hanging. And just enough space for both of us.
Great. And I see over this side here, you've got your battery monitor as well.
That's right.
Where is all of the house batteries and all of that stuff stored?
I'm sitting on top.
You're sitting on it. Right.
Again, there's a padding here.
Yeah, so these are all hollowed out as well. There you are, you've got your inverter, all of your fuses and everything, battery. Very clever.
And it's tucked away, and it's very quiet. It's not noticeable. I wouldn't know if it was here unless I knew it was here.
And so what about things like bedding, linen, all that sort of thing for when you're setting up to sleep at night?
So our bedding is under here.
Right.
So we have, in the wintertime, we use sleeping bags. And we have our pillows under here, and our mats for sleeping are actually stored in the car.
So what was it that made you decide to live in a tiny house?
Just a time in my life, I just really wanted to lighten up for many reasons. And I didn't want to be tied down to one location.
In a lot of other countries around the world where tiny house living is starting to take off, there are issues around legality. What's the legal structure around tiny homes here in Japan?
What a really interesting question. Tiny houses, or the tiny house movement, is just kind of getting underway. So it's in its baby years still. And so fortunately right now there aren't a lot of laws and policies and procedures around tiny houses. We are very closely monitoring what's happening internationally, and there will probably be some changes in the future, but right now there aren't very many laws that we have to be worried about.
So what about things like where you're able to park things like that. Is it difficult to find places to pull over and stay in your tiny house?
Similar to a lot of different countries, Japan also has a lot of camping areas. So you can camp, take your tiny house into these camp areas and enjoy beautiful scenery. Or maybe different from a lot of international countries, there are places called Michi no Eki, which are roadside stations.
That's what we call it, yeah.
So in many of the little towns in Japan, there are places where there's a really big parking lot and it has a bathroom and it has local foods and maybe a restaurant and a place that you can buy gifts. It's really beautifully set up and you can rest there. So sometimes if we'll pull into a place late at night, we'll stay overnight for maybe 4 or 5 hours and then get on the road again.
I noticed there's no toilet or shower in here. How do you get around with that?
Japan obviously is a very volcanic country, and because of that we are blessed with onsens or hot springs all over Japan. We don't have a shower, but we don't have a problem finding a hot spring along the way wherever we are.
A place called Sento, public bath, are still common. So yeah, we can find some place, even the tiny town.
Most people ask for a shower in their tiny house. We asked that there not be a shower in our tiny house so that we could enjoy hot springs. Currently we use a portable toilet, and we at night you can place it in this area, or we can put it into the car. The one we're using right now has a biodegradable bag, and it has a powder that's also biodegradable.
But similar to other countries as well, I've noticed there seems to be public toilets all over the place here as well, don't they?
You're right. Toilets are very accessible in Japan, whether you go to a convenience store or one of those roadside stations that we had mentioned earlier. It's really accessible, so we don't actually have to use it as much as you'd think we did when we're on the road.
Undoubtedly, this is one of the tiniest houses that I've visited so far, and it's a surprise to me that 2 people are living in here. How does that work?
Very skillfully. You would think that it would feel very closed in, or that this is probably the closest I would sit to her ever. I don't think in the tiny house we've ever sat this close together. It's incredibly spacious. There's room to move around that I was surprised about when I first started living here. But we have our own workspaces, and Rumi will do her art and I'll do my writing, and we can set up our computers and she'll be cooking and I'll be doing something else. And it is, although it seems like a small space from the outside, when you come inside, it's incredibly expansive.
So how much did this home actually cost to build?
In US dollars, it's approximately about 30,000.
Wow. And that's for something which has been so lovingly crafted by a man who obviously knows his craft.
Yes.
Even though right now I am thousands of miles away from New Zealand, walking into this house feels a lot like coming home.
Yeah.
Thank you both so much for sharing your beautiful,
pleasure.
beautiful tiny house with me.
Yeah,
it's a
thank you.
real treasure.
Thank you for coming.
The principles of Japanese design are found throughout this house, and its influence makes the home practical, multifunctional, and yet simultaneously without excess. There's no doubt about it that a piece of my heart will be left here in Japan with this home.